She's 15. She's 15. She's 13. She's 15. Okay, now that I've made everyone uncomfortable, let's talk about it. What you just saw were female K-pop idols and their age at the time those videos were filmed. For years now, there's been this trend in the K-pop industry where entertainment companies would recruit and debut teenage girls as idols at an increasingly younger age. Now, there are mixed public reactions about this. Some people find it concerning, some don't think it's that big of a problem, some aren't aware of this at all. In this video, I'm going to talk about what exactly can be so detrimental about this trend of underage K-pop idols, why K-pop companies continue to do it, and why these idols and their parents continue to allow it to happen. Some context before we start. K-pop, or Korean pop, is a genre of popular music originated in South Korea. Over the past decades, K-pop has become increasingly popular worldwide, such that you've probably heard of groups like BTS and Blackpink. These are K-pop groups, and the members of these groups are known as idols. Now, this trend of underage idols can be traced back at least 2 decades to the 2000s, where the most notable example of this was a K-pop group called Girls' Generation, debuted in 2007. With the youngest member, Sohyun, being only 16 at the time. Girls' Generation went on to become a massive success. Its popularity and public acceptance helped to catalyze this trend of younger idols in the industry. You see, when something works in business, companies tend to continue to do it and push its boundary. So by the 2010s, there were more teenagers debuting as idols, although with varying degrees of public acceptance. Some groups were successful, like FX, whose youngest members was 16 at debut. Some groups weren't as successful. For example, GP Basic debuted with an average age of 14 across its group members, and the youngest member was 11. As a result, it received some public backlash about how young their members were, and that was one of the reasons why it did not achieve as much mainstream success. And fair enough, 12-year-olds are still in elementary schools. Putting elementary school kids in music videos singing about love and attraction looks strange, to say the least. By the 2020s, however, and this is our current decade, teenagers in K-pop groups have become so common that it's pretty much the standard. It's in fact quite hard to find a female K-pop group that debuted with all of its members above the age of 18. The proliferation of teenage idols increased the public awareness of this issue, so there are certainly more public dialogues about this now. But I'm not sure how much of these dialogues were criticisms, and they certainly weren't enough to drown out the massive success some of these groups have achieved. New Jeans and IVE, for instance, both debuted with 14-year-olds in their mix, achieved not just domestic but also international success, topping charts worldwide. New Jeans' success in particular was so explosive that they set a couple of new records in Korea for their album sales last year. There are 2 main reasons why it's so advantageous for K-pop companies to opt for younger idols. One is the longevity of a career. It is expensive to build up an idol's fame initially and establish her in the public consciousness. So once a K-pop idol finally becomes famous, the K-pop company wants to recoup their investment for as long as possible. The younger the idol, the longer her potential career, and the more time the K-pop company has to recoup their investment. The second reason is that a younger idol can attract a younger fan base more naturally. And young fans happen to be the most active and engaged demographic of the K-pop audience. So given that teenage idols are so good for business, what's the problem? Well, let's start with the elephant in the room. One of the major criticisms from K-pop fans about underage idols is that the K-pop companies are sexualizing underage girls. Now, the reasons why this is morally problematic is self-evident. However, there are some disagreement about who should be blamed for this. Some people claim that it is not the K-pop companies who are sexualizing teenage girls. Rather, it is the K-pop audience, the male audience in particular. This claim is usually accompanied by statements like, men are pigs, men will sexualize anything.
Are men trash?
Most men are trash.
Now, I won't object to the claim that men are pigs. I do disagree with the idea that it is the audience who is sexualizing these girls. This is just my opinion, of course, but let me put it this way. Let's say there are multi-billion-dollar corporations who are intentionally looking for young teenage girls with a specific set of body types and facial features. These companies then recruit these girls and put them through strict diet and training regimen designed to maintain and enhance their physical appearance. The companies then put these girls in short skirts and push-up bras and thousands of dollars of professional makeups and hairdressing, and then film them dancing in these outfits while singing about love and romance. The companies then hire professional film crews and marketers to edit and package these footages and release them to the public through all available channels with the aim to reach as many people as possible. Now it's clear who is primarily responsible for the sexualization in this picture. And in further defense of the audience, they're often the ones raising criticism against the K-pop companies when an underage idol is made to wear outfits that are too revealing or suggestive. Now, in Western culture, it is often frowned upon to criticize women's choice of clothing. We call it slut-shaming. And of course, people can wear whatever they want in a free country. The distinction here is that the K-pop fans are not criticizing the idol's personal choice of fashion, because the idols are not the ones choosing what they wear on stage or in music videos. K-pop companies are the ones making that decision. From the style of the idol's hair, to the length of their skirts, probably all the way down to the color of their socks, are decisions made by teams of professionals with the intention to convert the maximum number of people into profitable fans. Apart from the sexualization of minors, there are other clear reasons why the K-pop industry can be harmful for teenagers. To start, it is standard for idols to maintain a strict diet and exercise regimen aimed at maintaining weights and external appearances. Now, if I had a teenage daughter whose body and mind are still developing, having her maintain the optimal hip-to-waist ratio will be the least of my concerns when preparing her meals. But that becomes the primary goal if she is an idol. There's been multiple reports of idols developing eating disorders or other health issues as a result of the pressure to keep up with the industry's beauty standards. So it's obvious why being an idol is not perfectly compatible with children's development. K-pop idol is also a very demanding job. Now, I'm sure there are worse jobs out there, and many will consider being an idol a privilege, but being an idol is no walk in the park. I mean, yes, the singing and dancing and acting and other performing skill sets are difficult and require training, but what is so uniquely challenging about the job of being an idol is the element of public expectation. For comparison, I have a 9-to-5 job at a company. If I fuck up at work, maybe the 20 people in my team hear about it, of which maybe 5 would care enough to personally cringe on my behalf. And even then, one of my primary motivations to not fuck up at work is that I don't want to disappoint these 5 people. I want to live up to their expectation. But I only have 5 people to worry about. For a famous idol, that number can be hundreds of thousands of people. And the number of fans and their expectations only increase as the idol gains more success. So the pressure can easily become overwhelming. Teenagers are meant to stress over math exams, not carrying the world's expectation on their shoulders. Also, fame itself is difficult to navigate for minors because they haven't had a lot of life experiences yet. They don't know what it's like to not be famous and live a normal life. As such, they don't have that perspective of normality with which to ground themselves amidst the craziness of fame. There are a lot of nuances we can get into about how fame affects children's development, but for the sake of time, I will just point out the most egregious one: haters. As you put your work out there, not everyone who sees it will like you for it. Some of them will hate you for it and announce their hate publicly. These people are referred to as haters, and haters are inevitable. Even I have haters, and I have like 300 subscribers. And the problem is that minors likely don't have the emotional maturity to process this hate, especially when the amount of hate can feel overwhelming from their perspective. For example, if 1 million people know you, even if only 1% of them are haters, 1% of a million is still 10,000 people. Right? From a subjective perspective, it doesn't feel like 1% of your audience hates you. It feels like 10,000 people hate you. So this kind of situation can escalate towards the wrong direction rather quickly. For example, and this is truly tragic, there was a Korean singer and actress named Sully who debuted as an idol at the age of 15. She committed suicide in 2019, which was primarily attributed to the intense distress caused by haters and trolls posting malicious comments about her online. So exposing teenagers to fame at a young age is risky, to say the least. Additionally, the entertainment industry is notoriously difficult to navigate. It's a cesspool of human greed and ego and yearning for power and validation. It's a complex landscape made up of characters with varying degrees of morality.
But you got in the music business, and the sharks and the manipulation and the games playing and the stakes and the money. He said, I wasn't prepared.
To navigate it successfully, one needs to learn to read people and have the strategic awareness to not necessarily manipulate others, but at least protect oneself from manipulation. It's a difficult landscape to navigate for most adults, let alone children. I mean, when I was 15, I could hardly navigate the social hierarchy of my local high school. So it's obvious why throwing a 15-year-old kid neck deep into the cesspool is not the safest thing to do. This is particularly concerning at the start of a young idol's career, where there's a significant power imbalance working against them. When an entertainment company first recruits a young girl, she typically starts as a trainee. She then enters a series of training programs that have multiple stages of selection, where those who don't meet performance standards are eliminated. In the end, only a select few are chosen to debut as idols. Now, there's an obvious power imbalance here between the young and inexperienced trainees and the powerful company executives who get to decide whether a trainee makes it as an idol. This power dynamics creates an environment where abuse can occur. Now, we all know that the entertainment industry here in the West, namely Hollywood, is especially bad with sexual abuse. Scandals like Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein and whatever's going on with Diddy these days are just rampant and out of control. Fortunately, the Korean entertainment industry does not appear as bad as Hollywood, although Hollywood does set a rather high bar regarding its level of immorality that's hard for anyone else to catch up. Now, it's not clear whether the Korean entertainment industry is actually more ethical or it's just very good at hiding its bad behaviors. In any case, despite of sharing a lot of similar power dynamics with Hollywood, there are less reports of abuse in the Korean entertainment industry. It's not perfectly absent of such reports though, so it's not a place where I'm comfortable leaving my child without keeping a very keen eye on it. On top of this, it's often quite difficult for the idol to leave the entertainment company they work with when things go wrong. This is a result of the contracts they are required to sign to join an entertainment company and become idols. For example, early termination of these contracts often incur heavy financial penalties. Many contracts also include non-compete clauses that prevent idols from going to another firm or even pursuing a solo career for a certain period of time after leaving the company. Additionally, it's common for entertainment companies to take ownership of an idol's personal social media accounts as company assets. As such, when an idol leaves, they lose their established online presence and connections with existing fans. These restrictions can severely limit the idol's future career mobility. When I don't like my job, I can at least look for another job in other companies. Many idols don't have that same option. This also means that the idols are losing control over their personal brands. K-pop idols can be conceptualized as a personal branding business. Yes, they make music and perform, but underneath that is a foundation of personal brands. It's a dynamics of public perception and connection with their followers, similar to YouTubers in that sense. Unlike other business brands, personal brand is inherently tied to the individual. With a business, there's a layer of separation between the entrepreneur and the brand. If the business succeeds or fails, the entrepreneur's personal life is not as directly affected. However, personal brand is different. There's no real distinction between the brand and the individual. My personal brand is how the world sees me. It's my reputation. If it suffers, so do I. It is therefore extremely important to maintain control over one's personal brand. But the contract that the idols have to sign make them give up that control over to the entertainment companies instead. In essence, by becoming idols, these teenagers are committed to something that limits their future options before they even reach adulthood. So given all these problems with teenage idols. Why would so many teenagers continue to pursue this career path? And why would their parents let them? Well, why does anyone want to go into the entertainment industry in general? One could be chasing the money and the fame and the prestige or the influence that come with them, or one might be genuinely passionate about music and performing, or some combinations of motivations. In any case, the appeal to be a famous and successful K-pop idol is self-evident, and it can be so appealing to some people that they feel that getting a shot at becoming an idol is worth all the problems that come with it. Now, it might seem at this point that allowing one's underage daughter to go into the K-pop industry is synonymous with irresponsible parenting, but that's not necessarily the case. There are some scenarios in which it can be an optimal decision. For example, there are people who simply enjoy strategy and competition and politics. They like using their wits and tenacity to shape their environments and achieve their goals. They like the game, so to speak. Things that many of us find toxic and intolerable might just be stimulating to them. These people are well suited for the cutthroat intensity of the entertainment industry. In fact, if they're not in an environment like that, they will simply get bored. Now, if you have a child like this, who happens to also be passionate about music and performing and enjoy being at the center of attention, she could be a good fit to be an idol. Now, to make this decision to pursue the idol career consciously, both the child and the parents need to be aware of what they're getting themselves into, what risk they're taking on, and what effects this decision can have on the child's future. And if all things considered, they still believe the pros outweighs the cons here, then fine, go for it. Of course, this requires a wise child and even wiser parents, and a combination of a lot of rare attributes, which means that it will be uncommon to come across a child who is a good fit to be an idol. But K-pop idols is a rare vocation to begin with. Not everyone gets to be a K-pop idol. If a teenager makes it as an idol, she is an exceptional child by definition. If I can end on a somewhat redeeming note here, the K-pop companies are just as motivated to look for good fits when recruiting idols. They're not fundamentally aiming to look for young girls to take advantage of them and ruin their lives. The companies want the girls they recruit to succeed as idols as much as the girls themselves, because it takes a lot of investment to debut and run a successful K-pop group. It would therefore be problematic if most of the K-pop idols the company recruited end up burning out and quitting. So the K-pop companies have incentives to seek out kids who have the combination of attributes that would make them more likely to fit into and successfully navigate the fuckery of the music industry. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, you probably care about this topic in some way. If that's the case, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. One thing I missed when I was making this video was people's reaction to this issue. I don't personally know many people who care about K-pop enough to get that reaction from, so I would love to hear what you think on the subject.